What's up, guys? This is Mike D of The Audio Alchemist, and today we're going to do a simple tutorial on drum phasing. What you see here is a drum session that I've been working on. I have a kick in located here, and I have a kick out located here. I also have a snare up and a snare down. First, I want to look at the kicks, so I want to zoom in and look at the phase correlation between the kick in and the kick out. Now, as you can see here, the kick in has a positive transient. The kick out has a negative transient. So very simply, I want to select this entire track, pull up the invert tool, and process that. Now they're in phase. I also added a sample, which I want to trim back by zooming in, bring right to the front, add a quick fade, bring that forward, and then we'll notice by zooming out that that is now a negative waveform. So we're going to put that in phase with the rest of them. Now, all three of our kick samples are directly in phase. Let's take a look at the snare. Now, as I said, we have a snare up and a snare down. Now bear in mind, when recording a live snare drum, both microphone capsules are facing each other in a 180-degree phase, so the snare down is going to be out of phase with the snare up. So if we zoom in, we can take a look, and what we first notice is that the snare up has a negative transient. So let's flip that so it's up just like the kick. Now, the snare down has a negative transient, which is correct. You want the snare up and the snare down to move opposite ways because of the way they were originally mic'd. We also added a snare sample, which I'd like to trim back, put a fade on, consolidate, and then bring forward. And now all of our snare drums are in phase. Now, let's take a look at phase alignment in Ableton. As you can see here, I've got a kick and a snare that I've been working on. Let's zoom in and take a look at the kick. As you can see, the kick has a positive initial transient. So if I go to my kick replacement track, which then opens my drum rack, I have two samples I've chosen. As you can see here, this one has a positive initial transient. But I don't like the sound of that one. I liked this one, which has a negative initial transient. Now, in order to correct that, once I write my MIDI, I have put the utility tool at the end of this chain and simply hit phase left and right. Now if I zoom back out and take a look at the snare track, you can see that the snare has a positive initial transient also. So my drum rack contains two snares. That one has a negative initial transient, and this one has a positive initial transient. So, depending on which one I want to use, if I pull out the utility tool, I can click phase left or right accordingly, depending on which one of those two samples I choose.